The next one is a leadership thing. And this is where we're going to stop. Today we don't have as much content. So we wanted to know in a training like this, with a group, not leadership, but a real cohort, do you think it would be helpful to have group norms, or do you already have universal group norms, or would that not be cool? Erin and I tried just a couple ideas. It's a Google Doc that anybody in this group can add to. And we don't have to have group norms in the real cohort, but if it's a larger group, is that helpful in things that you've led? And you can keep that open, Erin, and they can see what we have. I mean, we barely have bare bones here, and people can talk now. Put on your mic and what do you think about this idea? We really weren't sure. And of course, you are all professionals. We didn't think you needed them, but would that be helpful in a larger group? Do you use something like that? What do you think?
Yeah, I think they help with expectations. One thing that we're doing is we're calling them agreements rather than norms. So they kind of sound more like, we all agree on this rather than like I'm imposing this on you. Maybe we could switch that to agreements. That's something that from our diversity, equity, and inclusion we're using more.
Love it. Okay. Can you open it up again, Erin, in case anybody else, the Google Doc? Yeah, and you guys can type on this too. Yeah. I'll just pause for a minute. Anybody else have opinions or things you've used that work? So somebody put, we also had net etiquette. How did you do that, Evelina? Did you have like a doc? Did you cover it in a session? Did you have anything that's like ready that you would share, or how did that go?
Yes, so we kind of developed, honestly, we developed it as staff, and we made it like a poster type with some general guidelines of, what's appropriate in this virtual space, what kind of behavior we would like to see. It was reflective to some degree of to some of these group norms that Enrique was talking about, but of course in a virtual space. And we have posted it on our at the kind of the landing page of our course, and we were referring back to it. It was like it was showing up as a block on the site on kind of the main pages of the course, and we covered that at the very beginning when people got enrolled into the course. We kind of directed them to go through the netiquette first, and then we also discussed a little bit about it, kind of in combination with other group norms for in-person training. We also talked about the netiquette. So that's how we kind of coupled it. And I do have a sample here I can share.
Oh, yeah, you could even put it in the Engage group too, but
Sure.
that would be super helpful. And yeah, and we don't have to decide today, but this is great feedback. And if you have something that's been working for you, fantastic. Anybody else have opinions or things that they've used that they like about this? And if you think that I'm kind of thinking, of course, I don't know your next group, but that might be a good thing to do with the group early on and make people aware, okay, this is how we work as a community. If you're thinking that that's going to be a good idea. Great. Well, Evelina, thanks for being willing to share. I'm sure we'll look at that heavily and maybe steal heavily from it if you're okay. And people can write on this, they can comment on it. We don't have to fully decide. today, but really wanted your opinions, really weren't feeling like we know your audience well enough to make a call on that. So yeah, would really, really like input. Okay. If nobody has anything else, we can go back to our course. So you were being like a leadership role there. I probably will share now, and I think it was early on, I can't remember who said, you know, we should make this first session kind of a marketing session for the LMS of what Totara has to offer that we're going to cover in the training. So I put that together, and I also made it, right now it's in a slide share, but I also put it as an H5P presentation tool in the course in case, you know, people couldn't be here or they wanted to refer back to it, just to kind of model how the tools and the things that you use in our course, just to kind of see how it would all work in Totara. So, and then again, we really want feedback on my messaging. Do I use words that are good for your audience and so on? So this is dry run number 1. So I wanted to start with the Totara mission. So Totara's mission is that we give people the power to do their best work by creating a better, more flexible talent experience for forward-focused workplaces. And I think that's a good introduction for Totara. In this cohort model, we're going to use a supported blended community of practice. And we want participants to have access to tools, documentation, experts in Totara and Moodle that can help transition their content. The cohort model has both an online component where resources and documentation is housed, along with these very important live Zoom sessions. And you probably saw on the dashboard, Erin uploaded all of the sessions into the calendar, and the links are there, as well as Sarah's emails, just to make it convenient. Okay, any questions so far? How are we doing? Okay, keep going. Keep it coming in the chat too. I can't read both at the same time, but Sarah and Erin can. So within our first session, we're already going to start talking about how the crosswalk works and how the glossary tool can help you transition your content. So we'll be going over that today. We are also going to talk about programs, and part of what I want to do today is orientate you to Totara language and definitions and what things mean. So a program can consist of courses, and it can also have competencies in there as well. You can put things in a certain order or set a certain workflow. So you could say, first you have to do this, then that, then the other. I took a screenshot of our program that's this content is built into. And I have it in any order. So people don't have to finish one to jump to the other, and so on and so forth. So this is kind of what it looks like to the learner when they're assigned to a program, from, like, you could get there several ways. There's a link in that notification. You could go to your record of learning. But in a nutshell, it kind of tracks progress. And I think Linda asked, are we going to learn about reporting on that? And we definitely will. And we're going to learn how you can link content and competencies and make workflows and package content together. And I think that might be helpful because your meta courses, to me, like I said, are sort of an ecosystem, and you might be able to have some different workflows and permissions and rules using programs. Programs also have notifications with them. And Erin and I turned all of them off except that beginning one. A lot of them have to do with due dates, and there really isn't going to be a due date for the dry run because we feel like you might want to refer back to it and so on. But you can have due dates. You can have the manager get certain notifications through the notification center if people haven't done things through the due date. So in more compliance training, that's very common. You can have reminders that the due date is coming up. So things like that can happen in programs, which is another reason that they're so popular with people designing in Totara. Another thing we're going to be covering is audiences. And as I said, you're part of an audience. We turned off the notification to let you know you're part of that audience. A lot of times audiences are behind the scenes. The little screenshot I have there is the behind the scenes for whoever's setting up the audience. And so my audience, the first word is set. We'll get into that. You can also, that's where I cherry picked you. But we could have had dynamic audiences that based on certain rule sets or things in your profile, it will pick and add and remove people and assign them to all sorts of things, dashboards, engage groups, audience-based catalogs, coursework, programs. So audiences are very, very powerful in making the system dynamic and can do a lot of things. So we're going to get into that. That'll give you a lot of power. And in Moodle, you use groups. You can still have audiences plus groups, but audiences are far more dynamic and powerful than groups and save a lot of administrative time. Okay. So then we are going to get into dashboards. And later today, Erin's going to do another leadership discussion. We need to better understand who should have permission to do what. And you're going to tell us that and start that discussion at the end of today's session. You do need permissions to create dashboards. And so you can be thinking about who should or should not have the ability to do that. And dashboards are a lot like what you have as that meta course, first course. But I think that they're really powerful in that they're very flexible, very easy to update. They don't have to get a course in their record of learning then, because otherwise it shows up like a course, but it's really not a course. It's navigation and it's announcements and things like that. So it's very similar to a course. It has blocks. You can navigate from it, but you might consider dashboards. I use them in my design quite a bit. So we'll be spending on Friday time about how to make dashboards. Okay. Then we will, as we've talked about in this group, we will be taking some time to talk about and show how templates can be created, how they can be applied. Hopefully that grows. We might change the templates, I'm sure, that I have. I think over time you'll be adding to your template library as you see best practices. And templates, as you know, because you've been on this group, are a way to, they kind of take the place for those plugins for layouts that you're not going to have access to. And they can have like a preset look or feel or blocks, and you can keep and delete ones that you want. You can apply several templates if you want to. So I think I'm hoping that people will find that as an exciting way to help the design process if they want. You don't have to use templates either.